I'm going to give a short talk about seagrass recovery in Chesapeake Bay. The story starts back pre-1972 when the bay was replete with submerged aquatic vegetation. Here's a photo off of Solomon's Island where Chesapeake Biological Lab in 1933, you can see dense beds, and that persisted into the 60s. But in 1972, a large hurricane, Agnes, hit Chesapeake Bay in the middle of the summer and put Chesapeake Bay on the back foot. A bunch of the scientists got together and did a major study, and one of the things that was evident was that the grasses disappeared in large part throughout the bay, and this same area at Solomon's Island, the grasses were gone. That stimulated a lot of research into asking the question why these grasses declined, and it turned out it was mostly nutrients, too many nutrients, secondarily sediments and pesticides, but mostly a nutrient story. So that helped stimulate this Chesapeake Bay program formed in 1983 by 3 states and the EPA. Since then, 6 states are now involved in a variety of federal agencies. And this program set up a monitoring effort, and about 160 stations around the bay have been sampled for over 30 years, collecting water quality data. And simultaneously, Virginia Marine Science instituted aerial surveys with ground truthing of the seagrasses throughout the bay from top to bottom. And it's those data that helped us form this concept that these coastal canaries, these grasses, are the canary in a coal mine. Remember, the miners used to take canaries, which were sensitive to CO2, and into the coal mine, and they were the first things to respond to bad water quality. Well, it turns out seagrasses can serve as that role, and it's because they need a lot more light than any other marine plants. And as a result, we've assembled a group of scientists. My colleague Bob Orth from VIMS and I recruited a bunch of young and experienced scientists both, and this synthesis team formed together to answer 2 big questions. The first question, what are the long-term trends in SAV and Chesapeake Bay? And secondly, how are these trends related to human activities? And the timing of this was because we had these long-term solid data sets, we had access to new analytical tools and expertise, understanding that drivers had big, important management implications, and timeliness. There was a total maximum daily load, the nutrient diet for Chesapeake Bay was going through its midterm reassessment, and so we could have input to that. And we recruited a lot of young scientists to help transition to a new generation. Our first effort on this front was a cover story that was in the scientific journal Bioscience, and we used the term sentinel species, and we meant sentinel in 2 aspects. One as an indicator, as a canary, but also as a defender or guardian of the nursery and habitat value that these grasses have in Chesapeake Bay. We also teased apart different trajectories in different salinity regimes, so things that were happening in the more fresh areas compared to the saltier areas had very different trajectories and different drivers. And we published this detailed analysis in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. Long-term nutrient reductions lead to unprecedented recovery of a temperate coastal region. So we were able to actually address these 2 questions and say that the long-term trends are that nutrient reductions have led to an SAV recovery since the 1980s, and the nutrient pollution reduces the SAV, and the species richness actually enhances it. And we saw in 2017, for example, off of that same pier that you saw those aerial photos, the resurgence of grass for the first time in 45 years. We went and did a media push with the National Press Club with John Levchuk, Jenny Kiesman, and we went out there to document or talk about this large resurgence, and that was due to nutrient reductions, and that this nutrient diet was actually working. That led to a large media coverage, which was important for defending Chesapeake Bay program to potential budget cuts. and also had a broader impact around the country. And so much so that even just as recently as last week, the Great Lakes Restoration Program was defended in part by saying that the Chesapeake Bay's story shows that these management interventions can work. So when we were at National Press Club, we had one of the reporters ask us, well, if you can do it there, you can do it anywhere. And we responded by writing a little song that you can view on YouTube on the Integration Application Network channel called Chesapeake. Thanks very much.